They told me there were no spots left, that all the teams were finalized, that my 8-year-old son just didn't make the cut. And 3 months later, my mother showed up at my door, asking about the very sports day she swore was full. I smiled, said it went well. And 5 minutes later, my stomach hit the floor. They hadn't forgotten him. They had erased him. And I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because I had no idea just how deep the lie went. But they were about to find out what happens when you lie to a cop's kid. Hi, I'm Megan Collins. I'm 35, a single mom. And yes, I work in law enforcement. I don't yell. I gather facts. And I wait for the moment truth speaks for itself. I thought I'd left my family's games behind. The favoritism. The tiny exclusions masked as rules. But then they did it to my son. They tried to make him invisible, like they once made me. And this time, I didn't sit quietly on the sidelines. I started planning something better, something they couldn't control. But let's rewind, because you need to know how we got here. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you've ever had to choose between peace and truth. Leave a comment, have you ever been forgotten on purpose? And don't forget to subscribe. You're going to want to hear how this ends. It started like a regular Tuesday. I was standing outside my son's school, leaning against the gate, counting down the minutes until Alex burst out, shoelaces untied, backpack half-zipped, ready to tell me what new bug he'd found on the playground. Next to me stood my cousin Kayla, sipping an oat milk latte, chatting about the family sports day like it was still going on in real time. "Oh my God," she said. "Obstacle courses, water balloon races, face painting. It was chaos, but the good kind." Her son, Jonah, apparently came home looking like he'd survived a ketchup tornado. They'd run out of juice boxes by 10 a.m. She said it casually like we'd all been there. Then she glanced at me. Didn't Alex want to come? He would have loved it. My smile didn't flinch. It's the kind of smile I've trained for years. Warm, non-committal, the kind that works at weddings, funerals, and PTA meetings. "Oh, he did," I said. But it was my fault. I missed the sign-up email. Mom said we could go on the waiting list. But no one dropped out. That last part, it hurt to say. Because it wasn't just a mix-up. Alex had asked me 5 times a day if Grandma had called. "Did anyone cancel yet? Mom. Think they'll make more teams." Hope. Careful and quiet. The kind only kids have, the kind that doesn't want to annoy you, but still believes maybe. Just maybe. Today will be the day. Kayla blinked. Then she laughed. "Wait. What waiting list?" What I blinked too. "There wasn't a list," she said. "We didn't sign up. Jonah just decided he wanted to go that morning, so we showed up. They tossed him on a team. Totally chill. I think half the kids were added last minute." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Because something in my face shifted, went flat. That stillness I only bring out at traffic stops. The kind where people forget their own name. "Kayla noticed? You didn't know." I stayed quiet. "I thought you weren't coming," she said. "I figured maybe you were working. I didn't realize. They told you." I smiled again. Not the warm one. The polite one.
"It's fine," I said. "We're fine."
"Are you sure?" she asked. "You look a little tired." Right then, the school bell rang. Escape, blessed and loud. Alex came flying out of the building, all limbs and swinging straps. "Hey, Mom," he called. Then he looked up, paused. "You okay?" Even my 8-year-old could tell. I bent down and kissed the top of his head. "Just a little tired, sweetheart." But I wasn't tired. I was done. Because in that moment, as I stood frozen at the school gate, I realized something I couldn't unknow. They hadn't just forgotten him. They had made sure he wasn't there. And that kind of lie doesn't come out of nowhere. It's rehearsed, practiced, perfected, just like they used to do with me. And that, eso, was only the beginning. I should have seen it coming. The signs weren't subtle. They never were. But when you grow up in a house that calls cruelty just structure, you get used to being told your feelings are the problem. I used to think I was just overly sensitive, that maybe I was reading into things, that I was the extra piece of a puzzle no one asked for. I'm the youngest of three. My brother, Matthew, and my sister, Stephanie, were the golden pair born 2 years apart, just like my parents planned. I came along 5 years later. I used to joke that I was the bonus round. The truth, I was the miscalculation they never corrected. When I was little, it showed up in small things, like how I didn't appear in the family photo albums until halfway through. And even then, I was always in the background, blurry, blinking, barely centered. Or how every Sunday night, they'd play a 4-person card game at the kitchen table. Hearts, laughing, keeping score with those little paper slips. I'd sit on the floor nearby, pretending not to care. When I asked to join, my dad didn't even look up. "It's a 4-player game," he said. "You'd throw off the balance." Not "you're too young," not "maybe next week," just math. I wasn't part of the equation. Cousins got to play, family friends, one time, a neighbor's kid, but never me. I wasn't excluded violently. I wasn't shouted at. It was gentler than that. A long, slow drip of "not yet," maybe "next time," and "someday you'll understand." And then, of course, there were the rules. Rules for chores, rules for food, rules for everything. My siblings always had more important homework, so I had to do the gross stuff. Toilets, cat litter, baseboards. My brother took out the trash once a week. Stephanie managed the family calendar, which basically meant texting my mom dentist reminders and getting praised for her leadership. When I asked why I got stuck with all the worst tasks, my mom would smile and say, "Because you're the most responsible. We trust you." Nothing like being punished with trust. But it worked. I swallowed it. Because the rules always sounded fair if you didn't look too closely. When college came around, they had another rule. They'd financially support any kid who got at least 3 A's in priority subjects: math, English, and chemistry. I got an A in English, a B+ in chemistry, a C+ in math. And that was it. No exceptions. My mom said, "We can't change the rules now. It wouldn't be fair." Of course not. So I didn't go off to some private campus with dorms and ivy-covered buildings. I joined the police academy. It was state-funded. Paid during training. No parent cosign needed. I built my own life, my own structure, one where rules meant something and weren't used as a weapon. I thought I'd broken the cycle, until it came back around for my son. It started when Alex came home one afternoon, practically vibrating with excitement. He'd just heard from his friend Lucas that there was going to be a big family sports day that Saturday. "Can we go?" he asked, eyes wide, already bouncing on his heels. "They'll have races, soccer, obstacle courses, everything." I blinked. I hadn't heard a word about it. No invitation, no email, nothing in my inbox. I texted my mom. Her response was smooth, practiced. "There was an invite. Maybe you didn't see it, since you didn't RSVP. I assumed you weren't interested. Teams are already full." Then she added, "But I can put Alex on a waiting list. If anyone drops out, I'll let you know." I believed her. Because for all her flaws, my mom was always big on the system. And I work in law enforcement. I respect rules. I respect order. So I told Alex gently. He took it better than I expected. A soft okay and a nod. But then he kept asking, over the next few days, in that careful, quiet voice kids use when they don't want to be disappointed again. "Did Grandma say anyone canceled yet? Do you think they'll make a new team? Maybe if I practice soccer, they'll see how good I am." It crushed me. He packed his sneakers the night before, filled his water bottle, just in case. And every time, I told myself we were doing the right thing. We were following the process. We were being fair. But now, standing at that school gate, Kayla's words had shattered that illusion. There was no process. There was no list. There were no rules, at least not for them. They hadn't made an honest mistake. They had made a decision. To exclude, to lie, and to let me lie to my son. Because that's what I'd done. I'd passed on a story I thought was true. Taught him that fairness mattered. That sometimes you don't get what you want. And that's okay. Except it wasn't true.
He didn't lose a spot. He was never allowed to have one.
And once again, I was the girl standing outside the circle, watching everyone else play the game. Only this time, they tried to make my son watch with me. And that's when something shifted, because for the first time, I stopped asking why would they do this, and I started asking a better question. Who kept the lie alive? Who stood by and said nothing? Because I was going to find out. And once I did, I'd make sure they never stood that close to him again. It didn't take long for the full picture to come into focus. I started asking questions. Not loudly, not publicly, just face to face, one by one, because that's how truth works best when it has nowhere to hide. I began with my mother. I showed up at her house unannounced. No warning, no text. Just rang the doorbell like I was asking for a cup of sugar. She answered with that familiar soft focus look, half smile, half performance.
Oh, I wasn't expecting.
There was no waiting list, I said flatly. No pleasantries, no small talk, just the truth. Her face didn't move. What are you talking about? You told me the teams were full, I said, that there was a list and no one dropped out. She gave one of those tight little laughs, the kind people use when they're cornered, but still think charm can save them. Oh, sweetheart, it was just a miscommunication. I thought.
No, you didn't. I cut in.
We locked eyes. You lied. That landed. She blinked twice, slowly, then sighed. The same long, dramatic sigh she used when I was 10 and asked too many questions. I just didn't want things to get messy, she said. There were already so many kids, and not everyone.
There were 124 people there. I said, Jonah was added that morning, so were Mindy's twins. Alex was the only one left out.
She shifted her weight, suddenly unsteady. Well, I didn't think you were that concerned. I stared at her.
I texted you 5 times.
She drew in a breath, playing her next card. You're being very aggressive right now.
No, I said, calm as ever. I'm being direct.
She didn't apologize. Of course not. She called it a judgment call, said things fall through the cracks. Right, like my son. I walked out before I said something I'd regret. Though, if I'm honest, I kind of regret not filming her face when I said lied. Next, my dad. I found him in the garage, pretending to fix a radio that hasn't worked since Obama was in office. I told him what Mom had said, what she'd told me, what she hadn't told Alex. He kept his eyes on the workbench, like maybe a screwdriver could offer him a way out. I didn't know what she told you, he muttered. She said there was no space. The teams were full. Long pause. Then the classic, we just didn't want drama. Ah, the golden rule. Peace at all costs. Even if it means excluding a child and letting him sit by the door with his cleats on. Hoping for a miracle. That, I said, is drama. He didn't respond. Didn't even look up. Just kept fiddling with the same rusted bolt like it would unbolt the shame from the air. You knew, I said. You helped organize. You knew. He mumbled something about just helping with chairs. Would have been funny if it wasn't so pathetic. You knew, I said again, softer this time. And still nothing. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Just stood there, surrounded by broken tools and a silence I refused to fill. I left him to it. Then came my sister. Stephanie texted, asking to clear the air over coffee. She picked a boutique cafe with $9 muffins and chairs that made your back ache after 5 minutes, probably hoping the aesthetic would do the emotional heavy lifting.
So, she said, crossing her legs like a talk show guest, I heard you're on the warpath.
Not a warpath, I said, just asking why people lied to an 8-year-old. She laughed, actually laughed. Oh my God, you're really upset about this. I'm calm, I said. That's what makes this worse. You're taking this way too personally. Right, I nodded, because it was just my son. She rolled her eyes. You always do this. Make everything a big deal. It was a casual event. No one thought you cared. Did you know I asked? Mom told me teams were full. Her mouth twitched, just for a second. I didn't know what she told you, she said brightly, but you knew Alex wasn't invited. She didn't answer. Didn't have to. The silence was enough. Last was my brother. We met in a parking lot, neutral ground. He leaned against his car like we were meeting to exchange hostages. When I told him what Mom said about the waiting list, he frowned. That's not what she told me, he said. What did she say? That you were busy, that you declined. You believe that? He shrugged. You weren't at the last 2 family things. I was working. You know how it looks.
You knew there wasn't a list.
Sure, but I didn't know what Mom told you. It's not like I was involved. But you didn't ask, and you didn't tell me. He gave me the same look you give someone arguing over a parking space, like I was being irrational, like I was the problem. And maybe to them I was, because I wouldn't let it slide. After that, I started talking to everyone else. Cousins, in-laws, friends who were there. Calm voices, quiet spaces. No anger, just facts. I told them what happened, what Mom had said, what she hadn't said. Every single one looked stunned. Wait, one said, I thought you were out of town. Your mom said you had other plans, said another. She said you weren't interested, a third added. Some looked shaken. One aunt teared up. If I had known, she whispered, I would have called you myself. And that's when it hit me. The lie wasn't just to keep us out. It was built to make sure no one questioned why. They didn't just erase my son from a game. They rewrote the narrative around us. Fed everyone a different version so no one would ask where we were. They isolated us and made it look like our choice.
But it wasn't, and it never had been.
They wanted silence. They wanted control. But what they gave me was clarity. Because now I knew exactly who had helped keep the lie alive, and I was done playing by their rules. It was time to make my own. For days, I kept replaying it. Every word, every glance, every deliberate omission that led my son to believe he just wasn't good enough. It was like watching a movie I'd already seen, except this time, someone else was sitting in my seat. Someone smaller, softer, someone I swore I'd protect. Alex didn't cry when I told him the teams were full. He didn't throw a fit when he realized he wouldn't be going. He packed his sneakers anyway. He waited, hoped, trusted. And I let him. Because I trusted the lie. That's what finally broke me. Not their cruelty, I've lived through that. It was that I became the messenger of it. I told my son that life had rules, that sometimes you miss a deadline, that fairness meant accepting loss. But the game had never been fair, and the rules, they were made to exclude people like us. So I stopped asking why they did it, why they left us out, because deep down, I already knew the answer. There was no answer that would make it okay, no reason that would ever satisfy me, and none of it would undo what had already been done. So I let go of why, and I focused on what now. I could have called a family meeting, laid it all out, demanded apologies. But that's not how people like them operate. They don't respond to truth. They respond to exposure. So I didn't yell. I didn't post a rant. I didn't threaten. I started planning. quietly, intentionally. I opened a new group chat, not with my immediate family, with the others, the cousins, the in-laws, the ones who had been misled just like me. I called it It's Something Better. And I sent the first message. I'm organizing a new family sports event. Everyone's invited except my parents, my sister, and my brother. Let me know if you're in. I stared at the screen, heart racing, fingers still. Then the replies started.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. I'll bring cones and chaos. Need a bounce house. My uncle owns one. We're blocking the date now. It's time someone did this.
I sat back in my chair and just let it wash over me. This wasn't just support. It was alliance. They saw what happened, and they were ready to do something about it. We picked a Saturday 2 months out, rented a park, split into teams with ridiculous names. Team Pickle, Team Tornado, Team Mole Left Sock. People volunteered. We had team captains, a snack table coordinator. Someone offered a DJ setup. Another cousin donated shirts with hand-drawn logos. It was messy, unpolished, beautiful. But most of all, it was ours. We set 2 simple rules. Rule number 1, everyone's welcome. Rule number 2, unless you excluded a child for sport. That one wasn't negotiable. Meanwhile, I kept my distance from my parents and siblings. No explanations, no arguments. Let them wonder. Let them feel the absence. Of course, they tried to reclaim the narrative. My mom posted in the extended family group chat. No names, just vague phrases designed to manipulate. It's hurtful to hear certain things being said that aren't true. We've always tried our best. Family should forgive. Some people are choosing to rewrite events unfairly. I didn't reply with anger. I didn't defend myself. I posted a single screenshot, messages I'd sent her weeks earlier asking about the event, asking to sign up, asking about dropouts. And underneath, I wrote, I'm not spreading rumors. I'm showing receipts. The chat went quiet. No replies, no defense. Just a string of reactions. Thumbs up, hearts, silence from her. It felt like air after a long time underwater. Still, I hadn't told Alex yet. I wasn't ready. How do you explain to an 8-year-old that the people who should love you most are the ones who quietly close the door? But I couldn't risk him hearing it from someone else. Kids talk. Parents whisper. So one morning I made pancakes, sat across from him at the table, heart in my throat. Hey, I said gently, I need to tell you something about the sports day. He looked up, chewing slowly. You remember how we thought there was a waiting list? He nodded. That wasn't true, Grandma. She lied. There was space, a lot of space. She just didn't want us there. He didn't say anything, just stared at his plate. After a long pause, he whispered, Did I do something wrong? My chest tightened. No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. If anyone did, it was me. I believed her. And you got caught in the crossfire. He nodded again. Didn't cry. Didn't flinch. Then he asked if we could watch cartoons later. I said yes. Then I went into the bathroom and sat on the floor. For 10 minutes, shaking. But I wasn't broken. Because something had shifted. Not just in me, but in the story. We weren't sidelined anymore. We were taking the field. The day was coming. And I wasn't alone. For once, this family event wouldn't be run by fear, silence, or manipulation. It would be run by the people they always underestimated. And my son, he wasn't going to sit on the sidelines this time. He was going to lead. The morning of our Something Better event dawned clear and bright. I pulled into the park lot early, coffee in hand, heart pounding in a good way. Volunteers were already unloading tables, cones, and a borrowed bounce house. Team captains greeted each other like old friends. high-fiving over clipboards and marker pens. I spotted Kayla directing traffic near the pavilion. She waved me over, grinning. "Everyone's here," she said. "Even Cousin Diego drove 3 hours." I swallowed a lump of pride and relief. This was more than I dared hope. I checked my phone. No messages from my parents or siblings, just group chat pings from cousins confirming they'd bring snacks. I turned to Alex, who stood beside me in his bright orange captain's armband, wide-eyed. His grin was a mix of nerves and excitement. He tugged my sleeve. "Mom, I'm ready." We counted down to the first whistle. 1. Opening ceremony. I called everyone together, microphone in hand. Brief welcome. Quick rundown of rules: be fair, have fun, include everyone. Then I announced teams. Kids and adults mixed up, no family divisions. Just Team Tornado versus Team Left Sock to start. Alex led his team in a chant he'd made up that morning. Voice raise, Left Sock for the win. His teammates laughed and joined in. I felt a flush of pride. 2. Relay races, first event, 3-legged race. I paired a shy cousin with a toddler from another family. They stumbled and giggled, falling over each other. Everyone cheered. Across the field, I saw my sister approach, carrying a tray of her famous deviled eggs. She hesitated at the edge of the crowd, glancing around. No one called her over. I didn't. Team Left Sock dominated the heat, handing off the baton to Alex. He sprinted his leg, face set, and didn't look back. 3. Obstacle course. Next was the inflatable course. Everyone scrambled under tunnels, over walls, through tires. I high-fived Diego as he vaulted over a foam log. I spotted my father near the edge, arms crossed, watching. He lingered for a moment, then walked away. Behind me, Alex emerged triumphant, arms raised. A cousin lifted him onto shoulders, shouting his name. He beamed, sticky with sweat and glue from the bounce house. 4. Tug-of-war lunchtime. Snacks out, then a rousing tug-of-war. Teams balanced evenly. I stood on one side, shouting encouragement. On the sidelines, my mother appeared. She walked straight to the snack table, grabbed a water bottle, and scanned the crowd. Her eyes fell on me. We locked gazes. She looked stunned, embarrassed. Her shoulders slumped and she turned away. The rope snapped taut. Team Tornado pulled us over the line. Everyone hollered. 5. Final relay and closing. Last event, 3-ball soccer shootout. Alex shot first goal. He turned, fists pumped. Kids and adults erupted.
As teams finished, I walked to the microphone again. I thanked everyone. I told them what this day meant.
"It wasn't just a sports event," I said. "It was proof that truth, kindness, and inclusion can win every time." Applause rose like a wave. Cousins hugged. Neighbors cheered. Even random park-goers stopped to watch. And Alex, standing there in his captain's armband, looked at me and smiled so big, I thought his cheeks would crack. He tucked his hand in mine as we walked off the field together. Later, as I packed up cones and collected team shirts, I wondered, what would they feel when they saw these photos, these videos? Would they understand what they'd lost? Or just watch from afar, wondering what happened to their control? Because this day wasn't just about scoring points. It was about reclaiming dignity. For Alex and for me. And the real payoff, that was still to come. Packing up the last of the cones, I felt a thrill I'd never known. It wasn't about winning races or taking names. It was about changing the game entirely. The grass still had lines from the relay. The inflatable arch sagged like a contented dog, and laughter drifted from the playground beyond the field. Volunteers were loading the bounce house into vans, wiping glitter off their hands. Kids clutched their medals, eager to show them off. I gathered the orange and purple team shirts, folding them into neat stacks. The group chat dinged photos flooding in. Shots of Alex pumping his fist. Family friends hugging. A panorama of pure, unfiltered joy. I scrolled through the comments. Best day ever. Thank you for restoring our faith in family. I've never felt more included. And then, a message that made me smile. You tore it. She's been MIA all afternoon. It was Kayla. My mom and siblings had arrived late 3 days early. But too late. They wandered the parking lot, cameras in hand, turning over pebbles, hoping for an opening. I erased the last letters of "see you at the next one" and put down my phone, because mine was the only voice they needed to hear. The confrontation. 3 days later, the doorbell rang. I was folding laundry when I saw them on the porch. Carolyn, Richard, Stephanie bunched together like a misguided prayer. My sister's new husband hovered behind her, uneasily holding a casserole dish. And my brother. He stayed in the car. I opened the door just enough to let in the simmering August air. I didn't invite them in. They weren't here for that. Carolyn looked small in her faded floral dress, lips pressed together. Richard's shoulders hunched, wrench still in his hand from some garage project. Stephanie blinked rapidly, as if she could dial back time. Carolyn cleared her throat. It's been brought to my attention that things got out of hand, she said. Behind her, Stephanie's gaze flicked to the driveway, as though expecting backup. I folded my arms. No names. No drama. I said, just state your case. Mom swallowed. Her voice caught. Alex asked about you. She faltered. He said, are you mad at us? My heart twisted. For a second, I worried about him. Then I remembered he already knew. I stepped forward. You were mad enough to lie. Voice steady, eyes locked on hers. You told him there was no space. You told me there was a waiting list. You made us believe we didn't belong. She inhaled, like trying to catch a falling star. I'm sorry, she said, softly. None of us thought. I cut her off. Would you have come if you'd told the truth? Silence. Then Richard's voice, low and raspy. We didn't want a scene. A scene, I repeated. A child my son was sitting by the school gate with his cleats on, hoping for a miracle. That's the scene you didn't want. They looked at each other, guilt passing between them like a tightrope walker. Stephanie swallowed, stepping forward. We thought you didn't care. I shook my head. No, I cared too much. My chest ached. All those years, I believed your rules were fair. I believed in your fairness. You used it to punish me. Then you used it to punish my son. Mom's eyes filled. I never meant to hurt him. Intent doesn't erase impact. I let the words hang in the air. I organized this day so he'd see a different truth. Fairness isn't a hollow promise. It's an action. Stephanie lowered her gaze. We want to make it right, she whispered. I looked past them to the street, to the park where our event lived on in memories. Then I turned back. Actions, I echoed. If you want to show up, do it, but don't expect a second invitation. With that, I closed the door. Ripples through the family. They didn't call back. No texts, no emails. Just the dull thud of finality. But the extended family chat exploded. What happened? Are they okay, Mom? Are you all right? Carolyn tried to post another defense. This time, vague appeals about family unity and misunderstandings. But every screenshot I shared, every time-stamped message, stood like a pillar of truth. Reactions flooded in. Hearts, prayers, offers to host game nights, potlucks, and even counseling referrals. People realized they'd been as deceived as we were. One aunt admitted she saw Alex standing at the gate that day alone and thought she'd imagined it. Another cousin confessed she felt guilty for not asking sooner. When the chat finally quieted, I let it rest. Truth had a way of finding its mark. Inner liberation. In the stillness, I felt something shift inside me. No longer the eager child seeking approval. No longer the dutiful cop upholding rules crafted to exclude. I was free to set my own boundaries, free to define fairness on my terms. I spent the evening alone on the porch swing, Alex asleep inside. The sky bloomed orange and pink. A gentle breeze carried the distant sound of laughter. I thought about how I'd taught him to wait in silence, how I let that lesson slip onto his shoulders, and how I corrected it with one bold stroke of community and action. I leaned back, closed my eyes, felt the weight lift from my chest. For the first time, I wasn't just a character in someone else's story, I was writing my own. We had a second choice that day. We chose inclusion, we chose truth, and we won back our dignity. Next up, the final chapter, what this means for all of us, and the questions it leaves open. We learned something powerful over these 7 chapters. Truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it emerges in quiet conversations and tiny acts of courage. It's not the drama that changes minds, but the steady insistence on fairness. Lessons learned. Inclusion is a choice. Anyone can build walls. It takes heart to open doors. For one afternoon, we chose to tear down the fences that kept us apart, and we discovered that community thrives when everyone belongs. Boundaries protect, they don't isolate. I once believed that silence kept the peace. Instead, it built resentment. Saying no to my parents and siblings wasn't cruel, it was necessary. Boundaries teach respect. Action beats intent. My mother insisted she meant well. Intent doesn't heal a child's broken heart. Only action does. And real change demands more than words. We can rewrite our family stories. I grew up thinking I had no place at the table, but I built my own table with people who saw me. Families aren't just blood. They're built on trust, respect, and kindness. Universal connection. We've all felt invisible at some point. Maybe it was a passing joke at work, or a friend who stopped including us in plans. We know what it feels like to stand on the outside. This story isn't just about one toxic family. It's about every time someone used a rule to exclude. It's for the kid left alone on the playground, for the employee passed over in meetings, for anyone who dared to hope and was told you don't belong. When you refuse to accept that, you step into your own power. You learn that respect isn't given, it's earned and demanded. What comes next? I don't know if my parents will ever join us again. They might stay on the sidelines, watching from a distance, but maybe one day they'll knock on the door, not to beg, but to ask honestly if they can try again. And if they do, I'll have a choice to make: forgive and rebuild, or protect my family's new foundation. I don't have all the answers. What I do know is this: I won't go back to being quiet. I won't pass silence to my son. And I will never let someone else rewrite his worth. Have you ever been excluded by someone you love? What boundary did you set to protect yourself or someone you care about? How do you balance forgiveness with self-respect? Share your experiences in the comments. This is a space for honesty and support. If this story resonated with you, hit like, subscribe for more real-life tales of justice and resilience. Tap the bell so you never miss an episode. Because everyone deserves to belong. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the comments.